welcome to today's video. Today is a very, very requested video that I have been saying I will do for a long time, and I'm finally sitting down and doing it. So for today's video, I am doing a little Q&A about the Airbnbs that I recently purchased. And I have gotten like such a great response and so many awesome questions for you guys that I was like, I need to compile this and make a video because I think it could help a lot of people out there. So, full disclosure, this is my experience, my situation, everyone's experience, situation, laws, rules, all of that good stuff are totally could be different. So, full disclosure there, this is just what I did for my personal reasons and everyone's different. So, one of the main questions that I have been receiving is, why did you start with investment properties and Airbnb, and like what motivated you to do this in the first place? So I have always been interested in real estate since probably like high school. I have read like countless books on like real estate investing, rentals, listened to podcasts, YouTube, all of that good stuff. And I actually tried to purchase my first condo when I was 22, and had this same idea. Airbnb wasn't like so much of a thing back then, but I had like the same idea. I wanted to live in it with some of my roommates and then just always keep the property and rent it out. So I have been interested in real estate for a very long time. Number two, I feel like whenever I meet successful people, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, I always ask them like what they do, things like that. And no joke, like 90% of the time, it's real estate. They always say real estate or commercial real estate, or I just own a bunch of property or whatever, like 90% of the time. So, that was like really reason number two. And then reason number three is like, I'm at this stage in my life where I am trying to figure out a way to have passive income, because, you know, us women have to bear children at some point. Don't have to if you want to. We are the ones that have the honor of growing the baby in the belly and all of that good stuff. And I guess I'm just like at this point in my life where I'm kind of like, okay, well, what if I do want to take a year off of work? What if I do want to take 3 to 5 years off, you know, to raise my babies until they get into school and all of that good stuff. So whether I want to or not, I mean, I don't know. I just want to be prepared to really be able to walk away if I wanted to, and put myself in the position that I could do that. Or I could just, I don't know, want to take a hiatus for a little while and still be able to have some income coming in every month. And really, like, my long-term goal is to get to the point where I'm owning 10 to 20 properties and like essentially retiring, I'll call it, you know, by the time I'm like, I don't know, late 30s, early 40s, so that I can make every single soccer game, I can make every single, you know, like play or recital or like whatever it is, and just like have that time back. I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that the most precious currency is time, and every day you withdraw from your time bank. And I just want to be able to maximize the time that I have on Earth, I guess. So like really it's like all of that. There's just like so many reasons on like why I started in the first place and things like that. And really just like setting myself up for like financial freedom. Like at the end of the day, it's like, my goal isn't to sit here and like, you know, I don't know, live in like a $50 million like mansion and like own a Bugatti and like all of that stuff. Well, don't get me wrong, I would totally love that. But it's really to just have the financial freedom to like do whatever the fuck I want. That bottom line, like that's it. to be able to wake up every day, do whatever I want, but still have income coming in every month. That's really the long-winded answer to why I like started in the first place. Okay, so the next most common question I get, or I guess couple of questions that I get are, did you purchase in cash or mortgage the property? Like what kind of loan? How much percentage did you put down? Can I have a mortgage and take out a loan for an Airbnb? All of that good stuff. So again, this is in no way, shape, or form financial advice. This is just what I did, what works for me. Everyone's situation is different. So you can have a mortgage and take out another mortgage for an investment property. So I have the mortgage of the house here, and the way that an investment property works is you do have to put more money down. I did 25%. I just wanted the easiest way to basically get the loan. So I put 25% down. The way that I did it too, I think was a little bit easier because the houses both had long-term tenants in them. So I could already prove via like lease and like bank statements from the previous owner that the investment property was already making enough to cover the mortgage. So it wouldn't really affect my like debt to income ratio because the mortgage is essentially already being paid. It wouldn't be coming out of my pocket, if that makes sense. So I think that also helped make the approval for the mortgage a lot easier, but you do have to put down a larger percentage because this isn't your primary residence. So you do have to have more cash on hand. I did not pay all cash for the property. I am the type of person where easy numbers, like if you have $100,000 and the property's $100,000, I'm not just gonna go pay off the house to not have a mortgage because someone is already paying that mortgage and building that equity for me. So if I have $100,000, I wanna go buy 4 properties. I wanna take 25,000 of that 100,000 and sit here and go put that as a down payment on 4 separate properties and have people pay my mortgages and build that equity as opposed to like essentially just paying off a home. So I just rather have my money like work and make money for me as opposed to just completely paying off a mortgage, if that makes sense. Again, my personal preference, everyone is totally different. But I like having that mortgage, building your credit. I mean, there's so many like benefits to it. But again, that's just what I did. Another question I get is how much or what percentage Airbnb takes. They take 3%, which really isn't a lot. So it's totally 100% worth it. I also listed the Airbnb on Airbnb and VRBO, which I use Airbnb, and I know most of the people that I know use Airbnb, but one night I was like, you know, I'm gonna pop it on VRBO because I was talking to someone and it turns out people do use VRBO. In my experience, it's people that are like a little bit older, I guess. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna list it up there and see what happens. And sure enough, within 24 hours of putting it on VRBO, I did get 2 bookings. So it's definitely not as popular as Airbnb, but it helped fill in like 2 of the weekend gaps that I had. So I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know off the top of my head what VRBO takes, but I do know Airbnb is 3%. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of questions on like the hardest challenge of it all and like how hard the process was and things like that. So for me, I mean, I'm like trying to figure out how to answer that because the hardest part, I think, is I am such like a safety and security person, and I just like having my money in the bank. And I know it doesn't, like, interest rates are terrible, it makes nothing, it does nothing, I know that, but I'm such a like safety and security person that I think the hardest thing for me was like taking this leap of, and it was like the same thing when like, you know, we bought like this house. It was just like writing that check, well, you don't really write it, you wire the money, but just like seeing that leave your bank and being like, oh gosh, like, I don't know, like, I'm just such a safety net person. I think that was like the hardest thing for like me to get over, even though like I knew that it was like going to be a good investment and work out, and it's really what I've been wanting to do for a really long time. But I think that was like the hardest part for me to like overcome, was like wiring those funds over. But I guess like really the hardest part was just, I didn't know what to expect because I had never done it before. So it's like the unknown. But now, after this first one, I now have like gone through the process. I know what to expect. I know things I would change, things I wouldn't, and things to like expect. So for instance, like when I went and looked at the houses, tenants were living in them, which means like furniture was covering certain things, you know, the certain things in the closet were covered, and you don't really notice things until a house is empty. So for instance, I noticed like places things need to be like painted and touched up. I noticed how gross the doorknobs were, and I was like, great, now I have to like budget in doorknobs. Then I was like, oh, like I don't really like these handles, so I'm gonna take off these handles. The vanities were really nice, but then when I wanted to like put in my own decor for the Airbnb, I was like, the gray doesn't match, I wanna paint them black, like, you know what I mean? So there's just like things you don't notice, or like the air vents or whatever, when it's kind of like full of someone's stuff. So I guess I would say like things like that. And then just like getting everything ready, like the system that I use to like automate messages, automate cleaning, like finding those people in that area, especially out of state, was like a little bit of a challenge, and finding people you can kind of trust. But it was a lot of work to set like everything up. Like real talk, I know the videos look like fun and it's this awesome before and after, but like my ass was there for like 5 or 6 days, like putting together all this furniture, changing like doorknobs, like doing like construction on this like home by myself. So it was a lot of work, but it's so fun. Like I love anything with like homes and decor and like building things. I've always in my family like built furniture and like put things together and things like that. So I always find it super fun. It is a lot of work. And then just like making sure that like I have thought of everything. So I have like a notebook full of like lists and things like that to make sure that I have everything for like bathrooms, kitchen, all of that good stuff that now I'm just using for the second Airbnb. So I don't know, it's kind of like once you get through the first one and you have this system and you've done it before, it's like the next one and the one after that, and after that is just gonna be like clockwork. So I'm really excited because I feel like, I don't wanna say all these other ones are gonna be easier because they all come with their own challenges, but I know what to expect. So I hope that that kind of helps answer the question. But I do have my first guest literally checking in today, the day that I am filming this video. So I figured I would do kind of other videos too with like how much my Airbnb made in the first month and the first year and things like that, so you guys can kind of like get an idea, some like do's and don'ts. Just like there's so many different, there's like a whole series I could do on like Airbnbs and things like that. So yeah, I'll definitely have more to come. But another question I get is like where I got all of the decor and how much money I invested on like furniture and things like that. And honestly, I think I'm gonna make a whole separate video on that, because I could easily talk for 10, 15, 20 minutes about that and explain my experiences, the research I did, things like that, and what I did when it was like out of state, and how I kind of, I mean, I only saw the home one time. I put an offer in before I even saw the home. I guess I should like explain the entire story in the first place. So we're gonna backtrack and do that real quick. So I was I've been looking for Airbnbs for a while and like where I want to do them and researching different states and things like that. One of the questions I get is like, what states are you looking at and things like that. So I am looking at states that are landlord friendly. That's what I call it. So states that are in favor of the landlord. So for example, in Mississippi, if a tenant does not pay rent within 3 days, you can start the eviction process. That is a very, very landlord friendly state. Whereas some states could be 60 days. Like a tenant could not pay rent for 2 months, which means you're covering that mortgage on top of your actual mortgage before you can even start the eviction process. So I have heard from a lot of people that California, for instance, is a tenant-friendly state, and it's very, very difficult to evict people, which is why I didn't even want to begin to look in California. Also, California is just like ridiculously expensive, and I always wanted to be able to, you know, I always think worst case scenario. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I need to be able to cover my mortgage, but also the mortgage of the investment property. God forbid there's, I don't know, a pipe bursts and I can't have anyone rent it out for 2 months, or there's a hurricane, or, you know, like whatever it is. I always wanted to be sure that I could cover the investment property as well. With California being like way more expensive, your mortgage would be way more expensive, all of that good stuff. I look at states that are landlord friendly, number one. And then number two, we're getting a short-term rental permit is not very difficult. So a lot of cities have started to no longer issue short-term rental permits. You might even be like hearing about it on the news. I know Atlanta has some big thing where I guess now you can only have like a certain number of Airbnbs, and you have to be an Atlanta resident to be able to have one. And so all of these cities are kind of cracking down with all of these new rules. So I wanted somewhere that was easy. So Gulfport, Mississippi, you don't even need a short-term or long-term rental permit. You can just, honestly, it's free for all, do whatever the hell you want. We love the South here. We love the South. I was looking for that. And then third, I would do some research on the like Airbnb data for certain cities. I looked up like, you know, rental demand, average daily rate, occupancy rate, estimated like monthly income, like things like that, to find a place. So that's kind of what I look for. I'm already looking for my third property. I haven't landed on a city just yet. I'm still kind of looking around, but I want to find like 2 or 3 cities so that when I'm ready to buy the third one, I really just can start looking and purchasing from there. Anyway, where I was going with all this is we're gonna backtrack. I'm gonna tell you guys the entire like story on how I came across this property, all of that good stuff. Anyway, I landed on the fact that Gulfport would actually be a pretty good place to have an Airbnb. It's really, I call it like the San Diego of the South. Like it's where people go to vacation, beach, white sand, casinos, aquariums, events, car shows, like so much stuff in like that little area. Then I started really just looking. Like I'd pop on like Zillow, realtor.com, all of that good stuff. And I actually stumbled upon this property, got in touch with a real estate agent, and I put in an offer before even looking at the house. I never thought I would be one of those people. I'm always like, oh my gosh, like how do people do that? Bitch, I did. So I put in an offer on the house, and then the next week I flew out to look at it in person. So I only saw the houses one time in person, and then we went back and forth because the property was actually listed as a, get this, it was listed at a certain price as a 6 bedrooms total. So they said that each house had 3 bedrooms. And then I go look at the property and I'm walking through and I was like, there's only 2 bedrooms in each property. So it's not 6 bedrooms, it's 4. And then the seller's realtor tried to tell me that the laundry room in one of the houses counted as a third bedroom. And I was like, well, there's no closet, so you actually can't count that as a third bedroom. And she shut up real quick. That is a tidbit I got from my realtor though. So just like having all of these like contacts and like good people where you're at. Like my realtor was like, well, that can't count as a third bedroom because it has to have a closet. Like that's not something that like the normal person like knows. So anyway, ended up, get this, it ended up being, I put an offer in on what I thought was like 6 bedrooms altogether between 2 houses. It was only 4. So I rescinded my offer and was like, absolutely not. This is like completely listed incorrectly. You know, here's my new offer. And then we went back and forth, settled on a price, which I was very happy about. And then the appraisal came back and the appraisal was actually over the price I offered, which I feel like in the market right now, like doesn't happen because everyone's like, you know, bidding over asking and, you know, coming in with like cash and yada, 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 all of that good stuff. But don't always, like, I know that that's all in the media right now and like it's a huge thing, but always offer under. Like, what are you doing? Just always, you literally never know. This wasn't a bidding war or anything. I was the only offer, the only one that went and looked at it because it was only listed for a little while and I just kind of stumbled upon it. So it wasn't anything crazy like that where there was a bidding war. I paid, you know, over asking and anything like that. Even though I know that's just like what's in the media nowadays. So yeah, that was my kind of whole experience with the property. And then I was pretty bummed because I really wanted the 3 bedrooms to be able to fit 6 people. But I just turned the living room also into like a sleeping area. So one of the couches is this really cute day bed. And then the other one is this like really nice like futon thing. So I can still hold 6 people and it's all good. I still decided I thought about it for about a day, like, okay, well, do I still really want to continue this? Because I did want 3 bedrooms to fit all these people, and I just realized I still wanted to move forward with it. So yeah, that's kind of my whole like Airbnb experience thing. So I hope that helps. Oh, how often will you travel to them? Well, Dustin and I try to get to Gulfport a couple of times a year because his family lives there. So we already try to like make it there a couple of times a year. So I'm super fortunate that I have my in-laws there to go check on the house and make sure that like things are going smoothly. And if I need someone, you know, there for something, whatever it is. Oh, like Terminex, for example, they needed a person there. I don't know if that's what they required. So it's so nice having my in-laws there so that I can have someone meet people at the house if need be. But another thing I learned is like Mississippi is so different from here. Like they have like hurricanes, bugs, termites, like all of that is like a huge thing, and you have to do things like every month or pay certain insurances that like you don't have to here in California. So like we have earthquake insurance, they have like hurricane insurance, they have like bugs, and you need like termite people there, you know, to set like, I don't know, things or traps or whatever, like, you know, around the house like every month and stuff like that. And it's just things that like we don't have here or that I'm not used to. So like really learning where you're going to purchase and things it may require that maybe where you live it doesn't require, if that makes sense. So yeah, I hope that kind of helped. I think I'm gonna do a separate video on like furniture and like expenses and like things like that, just because this video is already so long and all of those can be turned into separate videos. So I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, like please leave them down below. I will just kind of continue to answer like all of these questions throughout these type of videos. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed today's video and I will see you in the next one. Mwah!